Robert Louis Stevenson. The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Part 7. Dr. Lanyon's Narrative. On the 9th of January, 4 days ago, I received a registered letter in the evening. It was written by my colleague and old school friend, Henry Jekyll. I was very surprised by this. We did not usually write letters to each other. I had seen him and had dinner with him the night before. I could not think of any reason why he would send a registered letter. The contents made me even more surprised. This is what the letter said. December 10th, 18. Dear Lanyon, you are one of my oldest friends. Sometimes we did not agree on scientific questions, but I cannot remember any break in our friendship, at least from my side. There was never a day when, if you had said to me, Jekyll, my life, my honor, my reason depend upon you, I would not have given my left hand to help you. Lanyon, my life, my honor, my reason are now in your hands. If you do not help me tonight, I am lost. You may think after this beginning that I will ask you to do something wrong. Decide for yourself. I want you to delay all your other plans for tonight, even if you were called to see an emperor. Take a cab, unless your own carriage is already at the door. Take this letter with you and go straight to my house. Poole, my butler, has instructions. He will be waiting for you with a locksmith. The door of my cabinet must be broken open. You must go in alone. Open the glass cabinet, letter E, on the left side. If it is locked, break the lock. Then take out, with everything inside as it is, the fourth drawer from the top, or the third from the bottom. I am very worried and afraid I may give you wrong directions. But even if I am wrong, you will know the right drawer by what is inside. Some powders, a bottle, and a notebook. Please take this drawer with you to Cavendish Square exactly as it is. That is the first part of what I ask. Now the second part. If you go at once after reading this, you should be back well before midnight. But I will give you extra time. I am afraid of delays that cannot be prevented or predicted. Also, it is better to do the next part when your servants are in bed. At midnight, be alone in your consulting room. A man will come in my name. Let him in yourself. Give him the drawer you took from my cabinet. Then you will have done everything, and I will be very grateful. 5 minutes later, if you want an explanation, you will understand that these arrangements are very important. If you ignore any part of them, strange as they may seem, you might feel responsible for my death or the loss of my mind. Confident as I am that you will not treat this request lightly, my heart sinks and my hand shakes when I think of such a possibility. Think of me now, in a strange place, suffering from a deep distress that no imagination can make greater. Yet I know that, if you help me exactly as I ask, my troubles will disappear like a story that is finished. Help me, my dear Lanyon, and save your friend, H.J. P.S. I had already sealed this letter when a new fear came to my mind. It is possible that the post may fail, and this letter may not reach you until tomorrow morning. In that case, dear Lanyon, do what I ask at the most convenient time during the day. Then again expect my messenger at midnight. It may already be too late by then. If that night passes without anything happening, you will know that you have seen Henry Jekyll for the last time. After reading this letter, I was sure that my colleague was mad. But until this was proved without any doubt, I felt I had to do what he asked. The less I understood this strange message, the less I could judge how important it was. And a request written like this could not be ignored without serious responsibility. So I left the table, got into a hansom, and went straight to Jekyll's house. The butler was waiting for me. He had received, by the same post as me, a registered letter with instructions. He had already called a locksmith and a carpenter. The workers arrived while we were still talking. Together we went to old Dr. Denman's surgical theater. From there, as you probably know, it is easy to enter Jekyll's private cabinet. The door was very strong, and the lock was very good. The carpenter said it would be very difficult and would cause a lot of damage to break it. The locksmith almost gave up hope. But he was skillful, and after 2 hours of work, the door was open. The cabinet marked E was not locked. I took out the drawer, filled it with straw, tied it in a sheet, and returned with it to Cavendish Square. Here I began to examine what was inside. The powders were prepared quite neatly, but not as carefully as by a professional chemist. So it was clear they were made by Jekyll himself. When I opened one of the packets, I found what looked like a simple white crystalline salt. The bottle, which I examined next, was about half full of a dark red liquid. It had a very strong smell and seemed to contain phosphorus and some kind of volatile ether. I could not guess the other ingredients. The book was a normal notebook and contained mostly a list of dates. These covered many years, but I noticed that the entries stopped suddenly almost a year ago. Sometimes there was a short note next to a date, usually only one word. The word double appeared perhaps 6 times among hundreds of entries. Once, very early in the list, there was total failure with several exclamation marks. All this made me curious, but it did not tell me anything clear. There was a bottle with some salt and a record of experiments that had led, like many of Jekyll's studies, to no useful result. How could these things in my house affect the honor, the sanity, or the life of my careless colleague? If his messenger could go to one place, why could he not go to another? And even if there was some problem, why should this man be received by me in secret? The more I thought about it, the more I believed I was dealing with a case of mental illness. So I sent my servants to bed and loaded an old revolver so I would be ready to defend myself. 12 o'clock had just finished striking in London when someone knocked very softly on the door. I went to open it myself and found a small man standing close to the pillars of the entrance. "Are you come from Dr. Jekyll?" I asked. He said yes, with a tight and uneasy gesture. When I invited him inside, he did not enter immediately. He looked carefully back into the dark square. A policeman was not far away, walking toward us with his lantern open. When my visitor saw this, I thought he became nervous and hurried inside. These details made me feel uneasy, I admit. As I followed him into the bright consulting room, I kept my hand ready on my weapon. At last I could see him clearly. I had never seen him before, that was certain. He was small, as I said. I was also struck by the unpleasant expression on his face. He seemed to have both great physical energy and also a kind of weakness. And, most importantly, there was a strange and disturbing feeling when I was near him. It felt a little like the beginning of a shiver and was joined by a clear drop in my pulse. At that time, I thought it was just a personal dislike, and I only wondered how strong the feeling was. But later I had reason to believe that the cause was much deeper in human nature, and connected to something more serious than simple hatred. This man, who from the first moment he entered gave me what I can only describe as a feeling of unpleasant curiosity, was dressed in a way that would make an ordinary person look ridiculous. His clothes, although made of good and serious material, were much too large for him in every way. His trousers hung loosely on his legs and were rolled up so they would not touch the ground. The waist of his coat hung below his hips, and the collar spread wide over his shoulders. Strangely, this did not make me want to laugh. Instead, there was something unnatural and wrong in the very nature of the man in front of me. Something that shocked, surprised, and disgusted me. This strange clothing only seemed to match and strengthen that feeling. So, Along with my interest in his nature and character, I also felt curious about his origin, his life, and his position in the world. These thoughts, although they take many words to explain, happened in only a few seconds. My visitor was clearly very excited, in a dark and serious way. "Have you got it?" he cried. "Have you got it?" He was so impatient that he even put his hand on my arm and tried to shake me. I pushed him back, feeling a cold pain in my blood when he touched me. "Come, sir," I said. "You forget that I do not yet know you. Please sit down." I showed him by sitting in my usual place. I tried to act as I normally would with a patient, as much as I could, considering the late hour, my thoughts, and the fear I felt of this man. "I beg your pardon, Dr. Lanyon," he answered politely. "What you say is quite right. My impatience has been stronger than my politeness. I come here at the request of your colleague, Dr. Henry Jekyll, on a matter of some importance. I understood—" He stopped and put his hand to his throat. I could see that, despite his calm manner, he was struggling against strong emotion. "I understood a drawer." At this point, I felt some pity for his anxiety, and also for my own growing curiosity. "There it is, sir," I said, pointing to the drawer. It was lying on the floor behind a table and still covered with the sheet. He jumped toward it, then stopped and put his hand on his heart. I could hear his teeth grind as his jaw shook, and his face looked so terrible that I became afraid for his life and his sanity. "Compose yourself," I said. He turned to me with a dreadful smile. Then, as if in a moment of desperate decision, he pulled away the sheet. When he saw what was inside, he gave one loud sob of great relief, and I sat frozen in place. A moment later, in a voice that was already more controlled, he asked, "Have you a graduated glass?" I stood up from my chair with some effort and gave him what he asked for. He thanked me with a smile and a nod. He measured a small amount of the red liquid and added one of the powders. The mixture was at first red. As the crystals melted, the color became brighter. It began to bubble and made a clear sound, and small clouds of vapor rose from it. Suddenly, at the same time, the bubbling stopped. The liquid changed to a dark purple color, and then more slowly became a watery green. My visitor watched these changes closely. Then he smiled, put the glass on the table, and turned to look at me carefully. "And now," he said, "we must decide what is left. Will you be wise? Will you follow my advice? Will you let me take this glass and leave your house without more questions? Or is your curiosity too strong? Think before you answer, because it will be done as you choose. If you decide one way, everything will stay as it was before. You will be no richer and no wiser, unless helping a man in great trouble can be called a kind of reward for the soul. Or, if you choose the other way, a new world of knowledge and new paths to fame and power will open to you here, in this room, at once. And you will see something so strange that even Satan would not believe it." "Sir," I said, trying to sound calm, though I was not, "you speak in riddles. You will not be surprised that I do not fully believe you. But I have already gone too far in doing strange things to stop before I see the end." "It is well," said my visitor. "Lanyon, you remember your promises. What follows is secret under our profession. And now, you who have always believed only in simple and material things, you who have denied the power of higher medicine, you who have laughed at those who know more than you, look." He put the glass to his lips and drank it all at once. Then he cried out. He shook, staggered, caught the table, and held on. His eyes were wide and red, and he breathed with his mouth open. As I watched, I thought I saw a change. He seemed to grow larger. His face suddenly became dark, and his features seemed to change and melt. In the next moment, I jumped to my feet and moved back against the wall. I raised my arms to protect myself from this terrible sight, my mind full of fear. "Oh God!" I screamed, and "Oh God!" again and again. For there before my eyes, pale, shaking, almost fainting, and reaching out with his hands like a man brought back from death, stood Henry Jekyll. What he told me in the next hour, I cannot make myself write down. I saw what I saw, I heard what I heard, and it made me feel sick. And now, when that sight is no longer before my eyes, I ask myself if I believe it, and I cannot answer. My life is completely shaken. I cannot sleep. A terrible fear stays with me at every hour of the day and night. I feel that my days are coming to an end, and that I must die. And yet I will die without belief. As for the evil that man showed me, even though he cried with regret, I cannot think about it, even in memory, without feeling horror. I will say only one thing, Utterson, and if you can believe it, it will be enough. The man who came into my house that night was, by Jekyll's own words, known as Hyde, and he was being hunted everywhere in the country as the murderer of Carew. Hasty Lanyon.